Today's show is sponsored by our friends at distilleryproducts.com. If you are a bourbon group, a store, a distillery, and you need wholesale pricing for laser etched glassware, feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to introduce you to my friends at distilleryproducts.com. They do our glasses. You've seen our glasses. They're great, and they are at great prices as well. So feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to the folks at distilleryproducts.com. Tell them that Dad's Drinking Bourbon sent you. Today's show is also sponsored by our friends at Orca Coolers. It is Father's Day this Sunday. What better thing to give Dad this year than something from Orca Coolers? Whether or not it is an awesome tumbler, it could be one of those bourbon barrel tumblers. It could be another tumbler. They have one with dimples that looks like a golf ball. It could be a cooler. And Orca Coolers are a necessity this summer for the backyard get-togethers, lake days, and everything in between because they're roto-molded. That means you could put ice in there one day, it's still going to be there 4 or 5 days later. So use code DADSEASON, that is code DADSEASON, for 20% off your order at Orca for all of life's adventures. Today's show is also sponsored by Action247.com. You want action? Get in on the action with Tennessee's only sports book by Tennesseans for Tennesseans. And guess what? Both the Tennessee Volunteers and the Vanderbilt Commodores are headed to Omaha. And with number one Arkansas out of the mix, you know everybody is looking at these two Tennessee schools to bring home the College World Series. They're going to have lines for all of the games as well as some updated futures. So keep your head on a swivel. Also in baseball, Action 24/7 now lets you bet on AAA. That means they're the only place in Tennessee where you can bet on the Sounds or the Redbirds. So check it out at action247.com. Something really cool, you can't bet on horse racing yet through action247.com, but they are going to be a sponsor of the 2021 Iroquois Steeplechase on June 26th, and they're going to have a lot of opportunities for folks to win big, giving away cash, free bets, and a $100,000 grand prize in their steeplechase free-to-play games. Make sure when you go there, you use code DADS100, and they will match up to $400 of your first deposit at action247.com. That is, use code DADS100. Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards, and Zeke Baker is not with me, but together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. And I am sitting here in wonderful East Tennessee, in between kind of Gatlinburg, Sevierville. It is a cabin, an undisclosed location. I am not allowed to tell you where I am because this has been such a secret that the company I am interviewing today has been working on this for 5 years. Nobody has known what's been going on. Tuesday is when this podcast will come out. We are finally able to tell everybody the big secret. I learned just what this big secret was the other day. I am sitting out here by a river. There's some rapids up the way. I hope you don't hear them on this audio, but I don't think you will. Mike, who is head of their marketing at Ole Smoky, told me I had to be very descriptive as to where we are in this cabin. So there is a cabin. It is beautiful. We are by a river. We're on this little landing. There's a bathroom and a shed here. It's good times. I'm sitting next to Joe Baker, who is the founder of Ole Smoky, which is the most visited distillery in the whole entire world. Joe, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. It doesn't take much to get me out here on the river.
What I love is that you live in Nashville and I live in Franklin, and Mike had us both drive out to East Tennessee to do this podcast, and we're going to do a little video together, but we both came out to East Tennessee to do this when we live probably like 20 minutes from each other.
Yeah, I live in Nashville right now, but this is home. I'm home.
You just moved to Nashville 3 years ago. Tell me a little bit about Ole Smoky. And I mean, there's another podcast we could do that would be crazy about everything Ole Smoky does. And I'm sure that is one we will need to do. But give me the elevator pitch of kind of how Ole Smoky came to be.
Sure. So I grew up here in the Smokies, and my family's been here for well over 200 years. And yeah, I think just by virtue of growing up here, you're exposed to all things moonshine and whiskey. certainly as a kid, my dad was, he included me in making liquor. At the time, I thought it was for the purpose of selling to McCormick Foods for vanilla extract, and he had all these things he would tell me that he was doing. And the reality was, I grew up and realized that he didn't have a license to make any of that stuff, and we weren't selling it to McCormick Foods. But it was fun growing up and believing that mash that I was helping recirculate as it cooked, that's where it was headed, was for a food additive. And so after going to college in Washington, D.C. and being asked 100 times when somebody learned I was from East Tennessee if I could get some moonshine, I think that just being a proud hillbilly, it made sense for me someday to get into the spirits business. But I did it after a detour practicing law for about 10 years. And
there's a lot of people in Tennessee, by the way, who practice law and then realize how bad it sucked. And then, like, you think about Heath Clark. Sure. You think about Macaulay down at Blue Note. There's a lot of you that did the law thing and then decided to get in the spirits business.
It's funny. I love being a lawyer. I really do. And I practiced and I missed for a few years. I missed the courtroom and decided to get back into it. So I'm practicing a little bit now, and I think there are a lot of people that are running away from it. I loved it. I think it's certainly an honorable profession, and it's fun to be able to help people.
What kind of law was it?
I was a prosecutor, and also served in the military and worked as a JAG officer, and then did criminal defense work primarily for about 8 or 9 years before Ole Smoky.
Now you get a little bit of the best of both worlds, because Ole Smoky has grown, considerably. We know this. And we know that they're the #1 visited distillery in the whole entire world. They're one of the fastest growing brands in the world. Now you're at the point where you kind of can sit and let other people do that. And then you just show up at the distillery and say, I need some stuff.
That sounds good. You're right. We've got a great team. And it's over the last few years, the team that's currently in place has done an incredible job of growing the brand, the wholesale business. The retail business continues to grow. And I couldn't be more proud of what the brand is doing, what the team's doing to build the brand. And when you're from a place like this, where we're sitting here today in Pittman Center and Gatlinburg, to be able to employ as many people we do as we do at Ole Smoky, and also to offer as much opportunity for those folks as we've been able to through the brand, it's special for sure.
I will say that the gift shop at Ole Smoky is one of the most meticulous places you will ever go, opposed to other distilleries. And this just shows how much you all have your act together. So, like, I went to go get something and it was in a medium, and they didn't have the price tag for the medium. So then they got a small, and then someone's like, oh, well, you can't use the small, you need a medium. Because it needed to be exactly what the inventory was like, and
it hasn't always been that way.
It is now.
It is now. We're a pretty well-oiled machine, but as you mentioned Michael earlier, but Michael was there from day one, and I think we operated in about 2,000 square feet that comprised the distillery operations, the retail space, and any meeting space that we needed. So bottling, everything was done in about 2,000 square feet. That was summer of 2010, and you asked kind of 30,000 foot view of how it got started. That was in 2009. The legislature passed a bill that later was signed by the governor and took effect in July of 2009, allowing folks like us to get a license to distill spirits here in Tennessee. We were the first in line to get a license, and under that new law. So we opened summer of 2010, early summer of 2010, and we've never looked back. We just keep going.
Well, and it's crazy because I tell people this over and over, and I do a lot of stuff with the Guild and a lot of stuff with the Tennessee Whiskey Trail. And you did that. Was that just for Sevier County, or what county did you get licensed to distill in? Because it had to go county by county. I mean, you still had to have Davidson County go after that, Williamson County go after that, Hamilton County go after that. You guys were lucky out here in East Tennessee, y'all could start distilling again.
We were lucky, and I think we benefited from a lot of common sense, a lot of good work, both in Nashville and then at the local level with the local governments and also the the state government working to try to, again, to create revenue for the state and for the local economy, and then also creating jobs. So we were the beneficiaries of some forward-thinking public servants, for sure.
And it didn't hurt that you were a lawyer yourself and could kind of jump in there and look at some of this stuff when you had to put it to the legislature.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's I think that certainly that was it was helpful. But to be very candid, my partner Corey Cottengim and also Tony Breeden that was involved at the beginning, both of those guys worked hard to help navigate that. And I think that, like I said, I'm from here and got the history and had the idea to make it all happen. But those guys as a team, we were a good team to get that off the ground. And it was stressful, to say the least. Somebody asked me the other day how hard it must be to have a business like this that's selling products across the world. And for me, it was the early days were certainly the hardest. There's a Grateful Dead song, Uncle John's Band, and the line that I like says the first days are the hardest days. Don't you worry anymore. And I think that the first days were certainly the hardest days, but we still face our challenges.
Well, and as you get bigger, I mean, there's things about even growing stills, and I'm sure you had that. You start off on one still, and then you're like, oh, we're going to need a bigger boat. Then you realize how much it costs for a bigger boat.
Yeah.
And then you're worried about cases and whether or not you're going to meet all the cases that you need to deliver everywhere. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. And so we had every dime I had and every dime I could borrow, I put together to start Ole Smoky. And the stress on me personally, on my marriage, everything that my wife Jessie was a critical piece of building the business too from day one. And I think that all of that, rushing to try to be the first and bring this to market was a lot of pressure there. And now I think that we had to learn the hard way. We had to learn that our equipment wasn't sufficient to meet demand, and we had to learn what it was like to bring in employees and then worry about the orders continuing so that you could continue to support the team. And so the growing pains were certainly difficult to navigate, but I think through hard work, perseverance, and a lot of luck, we've gotten here.
Before we continue, though, I have to ask one thing about the early days, because, you made shine with your dad. How often did you hop on the still? Did you get a distiller right away and kind of say, I'm going to go on the other side of this?
We did. We actually, we brought some folks in that had knowledge not only of distilling, but distilling in a setting where large-scale distilling was occurring, legal distilling. And so we were educated along the way, and we hired distillers from day one. But I did... Corey, Tony, and I all got involved those first early days and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think that one of my favorite photographs from the business is the very first cook that we did, and you could see me pouring corn into a cooker, and I think that being a part of that was certainly special.
It definitely is one of those things where you can get as hands-on or hands-off.
Sure.
Right? I mean, there's so many aspects of the business. You look, some people are better at selling it. Some people are better at cooking it.
Yeah. Well, our guys would be quick to push me out of the way if I tried to get in there and do anything today. I'm sure I'd do nothing but mess things up. One
thing I want to touch on, and I'm not just kissing your ass because you're sitting next to me, but you all have gone above and beyond from a customer service point of view. And I know this from some of the stuff I've done with the guild and moderating panels, and even to the point where you are so bummed out that people even have to pay to do a tasting at your distilleries. There's laws there that they have to. So you give them a coupon for the amount of the tasting to go use in the gift shop back. Right. I mean, those are special touches that you all have really figured out. And it's commendable. Like, what went into some of those decisions as you were going through? It really that idea started with Gatlinburg and the number of tourists that we see come into town. Every time that somebody comes into our distillery in Gatlinburg, we're welcoming someone into our home. They've chosen to visit our hometown.
And that's a big deal to me. I think that's something, just like anybody, if you've got a guest that's in your house, you want to take care of them.
So you don't hide the good stuff when they come in your house?
I guess you could, but we try to share and
I'm kidding. I don't do that.
I know you well enough already to know that you'd share. But so I think that it was important to me to give the customer, our new friends, as much value as possible. And so from day one, we offered a place where you could sit in a rocking chair and listen to music for free. We offered samples of food products that my wife Jessie had helped put together for free. We had samples of moonshine that you could try for free. We had the experience of being able to come in and see things made for free. And for me, that was an effort to try to introduce people to our brand, but also giving folks a lot of value. They're here, they've worked hard, they're taking their one or two vacations, and they choose to come to Gatlinburg. And so it was, I think by starting there, we were able to create a lot of relationships with our customers and build ambassadors for the brand and doing it in a way that was really meaningful, because people, they had a good time and they appreciated the hospitality. And so I think that it was, I don't know, I'd like to sit and brag that it was a great idea to do all this and it was going to help build the business. But the reality was it just seemed like the right thing to do.
And you all have, and I promise this is going to go someplace with what we're talking about here today. This is a big, big lead. But the thing about moonshine is you're POCing things constantly. So you could put out like, we have Cherry's Jubilee, or we have Banana Foster, or what's it, Banana Pudding you just put out?
We did, yeah.
And you could do it, and right away you're like, we went through a whole bunch of tastings. People either love it or they don't.
Right.
Now, something else you're working on, you are releasing a Tennessee straight bourbon. This is something that is aged 5 years. You've had to have been thinking about this. You all started in 2010, so this had to be something you thought of relatively quickly.
We were thinking about it before we started. So it's there. I think that aging whiskey was something that I wanted to do from day one, and we started to. As soon as we started distilling spirits, we started experimenting and finding ways to create product that we could share with our friends and enjoy, and that was important to me from day one. And I have so much admiration for folks that go out and start a brand with aged spirits, and I think that it's hard.
Yeah,
it's incredibly hard to make that kind of investment. The capital outlay is, for me at that point in 2010, when it would have been impossible. We didn't have the luxury of being able to do that. And so over the years we've explored aged spirits and are incredibly proud to be able to finally release something that literally we put our namesake on. And so it's a big time for us.
When you start a distillery and you realize how much things cost, and you realize that you need a new still right when you're starting, right. And you're starting with clear liquid, you're using source spirits, or like sometimes your liquid's pink, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's clear.
Right.
I do have to say, as we're talking about this, though, I do really appreciate that Ole Smoky has put out some higher proof shine. It's not something that every quote-unquote shine company would do. I like to make fun of a lot of them and say it's fake moonshine, even though we know the real legal definition of moonshine. I'm just playing. I know. It's legal moonshine. But I do appreciate that it was a little bit higher proof, and I think it's been one of the best kept secrets in Tennessee that you've been making moonshine, but you've also been making whiskey, because when your all's people came and reached out to me, I'm like, wait, I just thought they had peanut butter whiskey and mango habanero whiskey.
And we do. We have that.
And you do. Yeah. But I didn't realize the whole time you were working on this James Ownby. It's Tennessee straight bourbon whiskey. It's 5 years old, right? And 94 proof. You had to have been starting this. You had to have been figuring out what you wanted for a mash bill. How many did you go through? Tell me the story of kind of how this came to be.
Yeah, we did want to put something together. I was a big fan of Knob Creek and Maker's Mark, are a couple of brands that early on I enjoyed, especially on ski trips with my brother-in-laws. And I find bourbon is it's something that I think is it's easy to share. It's important to share. It's fun to drink it, but it's more fun to drink it when you've got a memory to go along with it, and you're doing something with friends and family. And we've explored over the years, we've explored a number of different mash bills that, especially in 10-gallon barrels, just trying to figure out which direction to go, how to bring a product to market. And for us, the James Ownby product is something that I think, quite honestly, is going to still evolve over the next few years, maybe even the next decade.
So it'll be batches, right?
Yeah, and it's not, I think to pigeonhole it right now would be impossible. It's a bourbon that I'm really proud of it. I think that as a craft distillery, we're selling about, I think we're actually going to outsize. We may become the smallest industrial distillery soon, but we are the largest craft distillery in the country. This offering is going to be something that evolves until we get to a point where it's perfect. It's pretty damn close right now, but we're excited to continue honing in on exactly what this becomes as far as a forever product.
So what you're saying is you got some big old column stills that are pumping out moonshine, and then over in the corner you got the pot still where you're working on the whiskey.
We working on the pot still, and it is it's something that I think that people are still going to be able to pick up interesting characteristics from batch to batch. I think that is a fair reality. What's interesting is, where we have made corn whiskey for the last 10 years and sold it, it certainly is, obviously heavily influenced by the corn, the same corn that we use for our corn whiskey, but it is the other grains that we're using in this, I think, have really developed a nice balance that offer a very approachable bourbon. My glass is already empty. You've still got a drink or two in yours, but it's...
I'm being good. I had some last night, so I did my homework before I came. I will tell people for this, went through the Lincoln County process. Do you know if you're aging them in 10 or 53?
These are 53.
Okay. It still has a little bit of heat. When you first open it, give it a second. Let it sit in your glass for a minute. Don't just dive right in as much as you want to. There's a little bit of heat that will go away and smooth out throughout the whole process. I would tell anybody too, first crack in a bottle, don't go dive right in anyway. It's like your wine, you would decant it. Whiskey, you waited 5 years for this stuff to age. Don't feel like you have to pop open the cork and dive right in. It's a patient man's game, or woman.
That's a fair description, good instruction.
I like how that aspect of it kind of plays to the mountain roots and the moonshine roots.
Sure.
And still gives the thing you would expect from a Tennessee product, where it goes down easy. I could sit here and give tasting note after tasting note, but at the same time, I've been on this kick lately, even though we have a bourbon podcast where we have to review stuff and give tasting notes. It's kind of like, if it's good, stop questioning it too much.
Kind of where I am. I think with wine too, it was always, I can't tell you all about the different tasting notes behind this wine and that wine. I know what kind of wine I like, and I think bourbon and whiskey the same thing. But I do believe that the best whiskeys in the world are made in the state of Tennessee, and I'm a little partial, but I also believe that the best whiskeys in Tennessee are made in the mountains. So this is our offering, and we're excited to share it with folks.
If I'm talking about the notes in my head, I would say there's a good presence of malt on this, more on the finish. Mm-hmm. And that really comes through. And a lot of people will say, a higher malt's going to smooth things out. I really get that on this. So there's a lot of chocolate that comes through on the end for me, and just makes it nice. It has good viscosity and mouthfeel, which is something that I want when I am drinking something. I don't want something that's going to be thin. I like it when it's got some meat on its bones.
You can chew it a little bit.
Chew it a little bit.
That's how I describe it.
It's like there's some great stuff, but you can get for $30 and it just goes down. Like, it's like drinking water, which I call those like when you have to work late on a Monday. It's not like you're actually doing anything that, you're looking at a spreadsheet or something like that. And you need something to drink while you're doing that. That's what those are good for. Those are like, I'm editing. I could go through 2 or 3 of those and not feel it. I'm fine. This is one of those ones that is not like that. This is one that you want to sit down, enjoy, spend a little time with. There are so many different applications for so many different whiskeys and bourbons. This is definitely a sitting man's one.
It is, and that's we've crafted it to be. I still feel like it evolves. Even first sip, second sip's different than the first, and third from the second. And as you're letting it just take over your mouth, you're getting a lot of different experiences with this. And it's I think it is certainly a good sipping whiskey, and something that is made for a setting just like this.
Yeah, that's why Mike got us out here. But one thing I do want to ask you is 80% of whiskey is marketing.
Right.
There is a good story. James Ownby is not just some random guy you picked out of a phone book and said, I'm going to make something off of that name.
Yeah.
Who is James Ownby and what relevance does he have to this whiskey?
Sure. I'm like I said, I'm lucky to be from here, from the Smokies. And I have a lot of family here in this area. And in fact, if you're from one of, probably let's say 10 or 12 families, you're probably cousins with all of them. It's the people that are really from here. We're all related. And one of my first ancestors to move into the Smokies, at least on the Tennessee side, was a man named James Ownby. And he's my fifth great-grandfather. And he served in the Revolutionary War with John Sevier and served as an over-mountain man, did a number of tours fighting for our liberty, truly, and freedom. This celebrates not only the guy that he was, but the fact that he decided to move here. And when I say here, just a couple of miles up the river from where we're sitting today in Greenbrier. My mom is an Ownby. Her maiden name's Ownby. She's the youngest of 15 kids. They moved out of the mountains for my Papa Ownby, moved to Knoxville to work in the textile mills. And this is it's a celebration of family, of heritage. And, the name Ownby means a lot to me, and it means a lot to a lot of folks that live here in this area. But the reality is that the name, it could have been probably 6 or 7 other names too. There's the importance to this area, to the Smokies, the families that settled here. Here in Greenbrier, you had the...
Well, don't give them up. Don't give them up, because those are going to be other releases.
Right, okay.
Like, that's your other LTOs right there.
It could be. And I think that... but I'm incredibly proud, because this is... I'm a direct descendant of a guy that volunteered over and over again to fight for the freedoms that we enjoy. And, whether it's my dad's dad that served in the Navy, I of course served and am proud to have done that. I think that at its core, celebrating a man who was a real pioneer, renegade, whatever you want to call him. I think that he fought for the freedoms that we enjoy, and then had the foresight to make his way over here into the mountains of Tennessee and to establish a home here. And so I am incredibly proud to be able to celebrate him, celebrate my family's heritage and the heritage of all people here in our community.
And for the people listening, this is such a great spot. People were actually tubing down the river by us, because it's such a peaceful spot to be sitting here and sipping whiskey. So when you hear that in the back, hell, I wish I was doing it too right now.
It's I think that our brand has grown so much over the years, because we are situated at the edge of the most visited national park in the country. And so these are the folks that you might hear in the river. These are people who chose to come visit here and be a part of I think one of the most beautiful places in the world.
I love coming out here. I always make sure I do about 3 or 4 trips out to the Smokies every year.
This is pretty peaceful.
So this is what people need to realize. Anywhere you go that is not right in the strips of Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, which... Listen, go down there, go to the strips, make sure you go to Ole Smoky.
Well, we want them to visit the parkways, but it is and there's so much to do for every family, for every age group, every demographic. Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg have more adventures than you could imagine. But the second you get
out of the strip, it's quiet. I'm saying that it's a busier side.
Sure.
I mean, the traffic is rough down on right in the middle of Gatlinburg and right in the middle of Pigeon Forge. But literally, I'm saying 10 minutes, you get off the road in Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, you're right smack dab in the middle of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park.
Yes.
And when you're in there, it's quiet. There's hiking, there's rivers, there's tons of stuff to do. It's a stone's throw from the action, but it's quiet.
Right. It's tough to beat. You got access to all the fun in town and all the access to fun out of town. And our distillery, and I think this is one of our distillery locations, production facilities, is located on the edge of the national park in the Greenbrier section, which is where James Ownby, back to him, where he settled, and where a lot of my family is now. You can still walk up in the park and find some of the grave markers and see the history of the people that were in the national park before it became a national park.
Where else do you see this brand going? I mean, I don't want to say think ahead, but in whiskey, you're always thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Will there be a cask strength version eventually coming out?
There is. We're playing with a lot. I think that we've got some really interesting collaborations that are going to be coming out with other, maybe even with other people. So it could be there's some. Yeah, I think that I've been in the beer business a bit, and collaborations are a little more common. This is something that I expect that we'll have some very notable news about what we're doing with whiskey.
Which I've talked to so many people about this. Not to cut you off, sorry, but
Sure.
I've talked to so many people about this. Beer has so many collaborations, and you see that it's like, all right, this brewery is doing a collaboration with this brewery. There's going to be a little for sale at each brewery. I think Bardstown Bourbon Company just did that whole thing where they got a whole bunch of people together like Freddie No, and they're going to start doing some collaborations between Steve Nally and all these other distillers in Bardstown. It's going to go for charity. I keep saying, why aren't more collaborations coming in whiskey? And I think it's kind of like, well, it takes so long. Who owns it?
That's true. That's a lot of it. It's the time. I mean, it really is the time. With beer, 3 to 6 weeks, you can have a beer turned out, and everybody gets to enjoy it. With the product that's going in barrels, if you're putting any age on it, it's tough. It's tough to collaborate when you don't even know who might be around in 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it is you're working towards. But I think any industry, but specifically beer, has seen this and benefited from it. But any industry benefits from people working together. And although competition is sometimes not a comfortable thing, I think that as businesses mature, as industries mature, you get more comfortable with helping your fellow distiller, your fellow brewer, and so I think that a lot of it's just got to do with time. I would imagine on the whiskey side, and the reality too is that the craft distilling community has grown so much over the last decade that a lot of folks that are in that business are just now getting to a point where, okay, we've kind of got our feet under us. We can explore other ideas. And so you asked specifically about what's next. We've got all kinds of ideas. And now that we're at a point where we can start exploring those in meaningful ways for our customers, our fans, our friends and family, it's going to be fun to start rolling out products that everybody can be excited about.
I almost wonder from a collaboration standpoint if it needs to be something where like people bring already ready aged juice to do the collaboration.
Well, you certainly could do that with blending.
Yeah.
I think that'd be an easy way to approach it. I think that you're going to see a lot of stuff coming out with age on it from Ole Smoky.
What's the MSRP on this one? Do you know off the top of your...
I think people will probably find it in their local stores at about $40 a bottle.
We know how it works, right? There's $5 plus or minus with all this, depending on once you get into the 3-tier system. Our fans are smart enough to know that
Sure.
Some people buy in bulk discounts. They get that distro deal.
We sell it to the wholesalers, and then they do all that. We're not involved at least we of course will be selling it at all of our distillery locations where we're able to sell directly to our
you do a lot
customers. We do. We are so fortunate to be able to do that. And I think that you touched on it earlier, but it gives us the opportunity to not only test out ideas and products so that we can figure out what we should be rolling out to the larger wholesale market, but it allows us to get good feedback from our fans and from our friends about what they like, what they don't like. We tweak this, we tweak that. And I think that our products are such that we're always working to improve. And I think that's the reality is the apple pie moonshine that was really when you look at all the flavors of moonshine, that one was one that I was most proud of early on. Jesse and I, we worked on the recipe in our kitchen, how we wanted that to taste, and ultimately it continues to be one of our best sellers, and it's a traditional moonshine flavor that we're excited about. But
you must have known I had it last night up on the pool deck.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, I had a great. I'll show you a picture here once we stop recording. But it had the big Ferris wheel at the island, right behind it,
right?
And I took a picture just drinking that apple pie moonshine and a nice little concoction that they did at the hotel.
It is it's a good product, and it's something that as a lawyer, I remember as a young lawyer, I would have clients bring me presents every now and then, and they would often bring apple pie, and I loved it. And that was, I was excited to bring that one to market in a way that is absolutely consistent with every apple pie moonshine that you would have been given at a birthday party or a Christmas party or whatever over the last 50 years, 100 years, however long people have been making apple pie moonshine. But there's no difference between what we sell today and something that my Uncle Johnny might have brought down to me at some point. It's an authentic moonshine. You talked about authenticity earlier. Our brand, we have worked hard to build it on authenticity. There's people like to say, well, that's not real moonshine, and the reality is the only difference between our product and what some might call real moonshine is just that we pay the taxes on it, and our operation's probably a little more buttoned up than what you might find out in the woods, still out in the woods. But it's real. It's something that I'm proud to be a part of, and I'm proud to have a bottle that's sold so well across the world now with Gatlinburg, Tennessee on it.
Well, I can't wait to talk more with you. Now that we know that we live right down the road from each other, we will do this again. We might not have the wonderful backdrop we
can always
right
we can always come back and enjoy this.
Absolutely, 100%. And I know that Mike, your wonderful marketing guy, I don't know if he knew that I have a face for radio. Now I'm very comfortable in saying this. I'm very happily married. Like, you are a very good-looking man. And I am not.
I'm starting to question your eyesight, my friend.
Well, I'm just saying, the second you walked in, I go, oh, that's why Mike wanted to do video, because like he's comfortable.
I can guarantee you that's not why he wanted to do video. I'm sure he's got other reasons than that. But I'm happy to talk on screen.
I take up the whole screen. I am a lineman at heart. You were a running back. We talked about this before. So we have to stop with this, and we have to go do some videos. So I will tell people to go ahead and find us on Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Twitter at Bourbon Dads, Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Find us wherever you download your podcast. Chances are you already have, because you're listening to us right now. Go ahead and find Ole Smoky. Find some of this James Ownby. It is now out. This is out in the stores. If you're in Nashville, it's the 6th and Peabody location, the Gatlinburg location. You can find them on the webs at Ole Smoky. That is OLESMOKY. No E in that Smoky. The most visited distillery in the whole entire world. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today, Joe.
I love it. I've enjoyed it and excited to share some more whiskey with you.
Cheers.
Cheers.